Hello and welcome to TechFunnel.com's interview series. My name is Danny White, and today we have the opportunity to talk to Carli van Heerden. In February of 2015, Carli launched We Edit podcast after seeing the amount of work that went into producing her husband's podcast. Having built a prominent client list made up of Fortune 100 companies, NGOs, celebrities, and more, she believes that podcasting is only really getting started in the big array of things being developed in the world. Carli's mission is to give podcasters back their precious time and support them in every aspect of getting the best version of their show out to their audience. In her spare time, you can find her at one of her favorite local coffee shops or enjoying brunch in the sun. Welcome, Carli. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and how We Edit podcast came to be.
Well, it's just like you said, when in 2015, when my husband launched his podcast, I just totally saw how much work went into editing it, getting it published, and doing the show notes and whatever else went into it. And I just thought, man, is there somebody that can help you do this? And back then, there wasn't many companies who were doing it in a full scale kind of thing. So it was mostly smaller versions like contractors that you could hire to edit the audio for you and all that stuff. So we just decided, you know what, why don't we get started on this, see if there's interest, because if he's interested in having help for his podcast, I'm sure other podcasters would be interested in that same thing. So we just decided to go ahead and launch the company. We were actually living and traveling in Southeast Asia at the time. So it was kind of like our little nomad bootstrapping business that we did together.
Awesome.
And yeah, so literally doing everything by ourselves. And over the past 4 years, have just grown it to an incredible company. And I have 3 big teams handling each section of the podcast post-production service. So audio editing, we have the transcription team, and we also have the show notes copywriting team doing all of that for our clients. So at the moment, it's a big growing machine, and I don't do all the individual things myself anymore, just manage the team, talk to clients, from just amazing to see how it's grown and the amazing people that I have on the in-house team with me working together to just put out tons and tons of shows every month.
That is incredible. So we're going to get right into the world of podcasting. Spotify got into the ring of podcasting earlier this year, and a number of other companies have made some bets on how awesome podcasting is and will be in the future. So why do you think podcasting has become this massive and serious business over the past few years?
Well, it's actually crazy to look because audio blogging has been around since the 1980s, and podcasting really only became a bigger thing in 2004, around there. So like with every industry, it needs time to settle, and there's always going to be the early adopters, which is really a small handful of the population. And once people come in and see that, hey, this is something going on, and the rest of the world joins in, it really makes a big dent, because that's where all of us come. So podcasting is more than just me talking into a mic, doing my thing. It's become so effective connecting with your audience, really creating content that you can put out on multiple platforms. And it's so interesting to see the stats of how the podcast industry has been growing, to see even who's listening. Buzzsprout did an incredible podcast statistics article just recently, showing the listener demographics, and even thinking about different countries. South Korea is actually one of the biggest listening countries for podcasts right now. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that it's not just North America, which is usually big in everything, right? So there are most of the popular podcasts are in South Korea, which is incredible. So it just shows you how far the podcast industry is reaching at this moment, and it's really just getting started.
So you've obviously listened to a lot of good podcasts over the years since creating your business, of course, and podcasts come to you for editing and for all of the great work that you do on those. What type of elements make for a really good podcast? Obviously, it's good editing, good sound engineering, great content, but are there other elements that people who are looking to get into podcasting should be concerned with?
Yeah, definitely. So of course, right, like you said, the editing is a really good way to get good quality audio out there. But for us, because that's what we deal with is the editing side, we aren't involved in the pre-production thing. So that is really on the podcasters. If you want to have great audio, it's like the most important thing to start with the good sound to begin with. We can't make something horrible sound magically amazing. Like my operations director always says, there's no magic button that just makes everything sound perfect. You have to start with that base level audio that's really good. So that's why I always suggest for our clients to invest in a really good microphone. Like you can get by with the $100 one or the cheaper ones, but really when it comes down to it, that's where you're going to make the biggest difference if you start with a great microphone off the bat. So yeah, that's one of the things. And then obviously my most important thing that I always tell people is you have to have a good framing of your show. When you listen to a podcast and you're kind of lost in they're jumping all over the place and you're not really sure how the podcast is flowing, you can become disinterested. When you know the person or the interviewer or the host is doing a really good job framing the episode, really hitting on the key points, the takeaways that you can take away from the episode, it's just so much more valuable. And then telling that story is really a great way to just make it a whole rounded thing for you to listen to, something that captures the audience, gives them what they need, and really has that valuable component of the framing of the episode. So,
Absolutely awesome. So is there something that you would like to see more of in the podcasting industry?
Well, there's a lot of news stuff right now. So it's just I subscribe to a newsletter for podcasting every day. So every day I'm in the news, looking what's going on, who's acquiring what, who's putting out new content. But for us at the moment, we decided to do something new ourselves. So we have decided to launch our own recording studios coming in.
Oh, really?
Months. Yes. So because we find that a lot of times podcasters just don't get around to having their studio set up because it's a lot of investment to have a quality studio space for you to record. So they're always waiting to book time at a different spot or running around trying to get their episodes recorded. So we find that if we can get in on that, provide a space for our clients or non-clients to come in and just sit down, batch record their episodes and be totally set for that week or the month. We can really help them get right to that baseline audio that I was talking about earlier. So yeah, that's one of the things that's exciting for us. And then also hitting back on how widespread podcasts are, translations, turning some of those hit shows that we have like Serial or any of the most popular podcasts out there and translating it into different languages for just more people to be able to access and listen to all these things that we are so intrigued by. So,
Absolutely. So as long as good content is being produced, there always will be this type of wide range, different formats to put this type of content into. Do you think podcasting is here to stay as it is, or will it evolve into something that's more advanced, more complex?
Well, I feel like that we're already seeing a lot of crossover of the media happening with podcasts because some of them are being turned into television shows, like with Gimlet Media turning Startup, the podcast, into Alex Inc., the series, which is really incredible to see that. And with podcasts even being used for overturning murder convictions. It's just incredible to see how that's evolving, and even big YouTubers turning from just their vlogging channels, turning it into a podcast and just making such a big dent in the industry that way. So yeah, it's just seeing the changes that are like happening with more widespread knowledge and acceptance of podcasts, even in the workplaces, and just more knowledge about what it is that a podcast can do. Because I know even explaining to someone like my grandma, what am I doing? What is a podcast? I really have to go back to the roots and explain to her. It's like a radio show, but just finding that way to communicate to her what it is one of the big challenges that I faced. And I think that, as the knowledge gets spread and podcasts get accepted, there's going to be so much more that we can do with it too.
For all of our executives and professionals business owners who are listening, what advice would you give for building a brand around a podcast?
Yes, this is the big one. So when it comes to your podcast, the most important thing is to be consistent and be unique. So many people try to copy strategies of others that have found success, or, the big hits that you see coming out. And then you end up with exactly the same podcast, essentially. You're interviewing the same people, you're asking the same questions. There's really nothing new drawing the listeners in to listen to what you are pulling out of that person, going back to the storytelling. And then, of course, in the business world, it depends on what type of podcast you set out to put out there. So it could be, we have some clients who do internal podcasts for their companies, which is a great way to share knowledge within your organization, between departments. Just get everybody on the same page of what the podcast or the company is doing through that medium. So it really depends on what you set out to do. But being original is so key, and staying on brand. If it's your personal brand, you stay on brand to that. You don't jump all over the place. If it's your company brand, you stay on brand with the company. What do you value? What is your mission? Just do exactly that, and take time to strategize and come up with your own direction. Be unique, be different, and focus on what it is you're setting out to do and what your audience can learn from that. So that's what I always tell people.
Good advice. Very good advice. So final question. There are a bunch of podcasts across industries and channels, any type of subject probably that people are looking for, they could find. But is there a podcast that you have not yet seen created that you would like to see?
Oh my goodness. Yes, this is a tough question because there are so many podcasts out there. Everything from gardening podcasts, to crime stories. Like, over the years, I've learned a ton about software engineering that I've never known, options trading, child pediatrics and doctors. So it's hard to say that there is a topic that hasn't been covered. But again, it comes back down to nobody can tell the story the way that you tell it. So even if you feel like, oh, this has been done before, et cetera, there's nobody who's going to tell it the way that you do, who's going to draw the same type of questions out of people that you will. So it's about finding your rhythm in it. And I just find that if it's totally unique to that person, that's what draws me in. I want to know more about what they're going to do next, who they're going to ask next, to be on the show. So it really comes down to, just that, drawing people into your unique spin on something.
Very nice. Carli, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about podcasting. It's been very good to talk to you. If you could tell our audience where they can find out more about you and your business, We Edit Podcast.
Yeah, so we have that crazy name. What do we do? Podcast. So it's just on weeditpodcast.com. And the same with Instagram. It's at We Edit Podcast, Twitter, Facebook, all of those places. You can find me on there too. In the About page, I'm under the team there, and all my links are also listed on there. So don't forget to check out the We Edit Podcast blog too. We always have some amazing articles coming out, content about strategies for launching, promoting on Instagram, what are the best hosting sites to use. So everything you need to know about podcasting is right there.
Awesome. Carli, thanks for joining us and taking time out of your schedule, which I'm sure is very busy today, to share some of your insights with us.
Thanks so much, Danny. It was great.
Thank you. Guys, thanks for listening to this interview. For these and other interviews and topics, please visit us at techfunnel.com. You can connect with us across social media and subscribe to our weekly newsletter so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening in the industry. Thank you.